welcome back to the podcast. I'm Brandon Bagg, and I'm sitting here with my good friend Kitt.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. Thank
Good.
you for, I feel very honored to be sitting here instead of behind
Instead
a camera.
of behind. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Oh God. Oh God.
always the struggle.
Tag team. You can move the mic, Brandon.
I can move the mic. Yeah. So over the course of the last, few weeks, as I was thinking about all the things I wanted to talk about with you specifically, I stumbled across that I just didn't know where to start. There's so
Right.
much that you do, and so much that you are as an artist, as a musician, as a producer. You got such a cool story about all the things that you've done, the places that you've been, things you've seen. So I wanted to talk a little bit about your history as a recording artist, because last year you released the first album under Kitt, your first studio album, full length. You had an EP before that, and you've got the other one under Catherine Penfold that you released back in 2019. But that is not the beginning of your recording career at all.
No. And it's kind of, I don't know, it just, as artists, okay, what, speaking to the person who doesn't drink much alcohol. All right. Thank you, number one, for bringing tequila for me instead of mezcal. Though I was going to do, okay, we sip on this, right? Okay.
Most definitely. Most
Chug. What time is it?
5 o'clock somewhere.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah.
What? You're teaching me so many things. Yeah, I don't know whether to feel embarrassed about how many albums I've released in my lifetime or be proud of it. But I think there are 8 or 9 now albums starting from when I was 14 and many different genres up to when putting out Sweetest Thing, which was the last one under Catherine Penfold, and that was out through Just in Time Records and Network. And then through COVID, realizing that I was having a really hard time. I don't hate my name for me, but a Catherine Penfold, when I was filtering down all the genres that I've been through singing, I realized that R&B really spoke to me, that this, taking jazz to a level where you can just really feel the beat. And so that then people tell me, oh, that's called neo soul, or that's called, this thing. I'm like, oh, great. There's a name for it. Okay. I'm in a category. But it just never felt right. I remember walking out. I was living on the Sunshine Coast and I was singing primarily jazz at that point. And up there, jazz totally worked. And Catherine Penfold totally worked with this jazz thing. And over these couple of years I was living up there, I started writing this neo soul music. And I remember I was doing Gibson's Jazz Fest and they're like, and Catherine Penfold. And this is the first time I'd taken over Paul Clark, Matt Reed, Max Sapersky was with us. Who else? Vince Mai was with us. And we had a funky set up. And I'm walking out and I'm like, oh, Catherine Penfold just did not compute with what I was about to do.
Feel right.
Yeah. And so it took a little while. And what it was is that over COVID, I asked the label if they would allow me to write an album that was really stripped down, and just by myself at home, produce it at home. That's what I used to do when I was 14. I had a bedroom in my house. My parents set up with me. And I was just allowed to produce myself. My dad bought me Cakewalk for our windows. So I was like, I'm a little producer with my keyboard and synth sounds. And so all of a sudden they're like, yeah, give her. But we should think about putting your jazz stuff under a different name so that you can move forward as Catherine Penfold. And instantly I was like, oh, could we actually just make a new me going forward? Mm-hmm. And they just, I just love my label so much. They are so embracing of any kind of ideas that I have or things that I come forward saying, my heart feels really good in this. They're like, okay. So because we were kind of starting from scratch for the neo soul idea, so it just took me a couple of days going through. Kitt is actually a nickname from my childhood. Everyone used to call me Kitty. And so I just thought, okay, well, Kitt with 2 T's. I feel that kind of really resounds me. I was also coming through the last couple of years of figuring out kind of my sexuality and things like that. And Kitt felt a lot more just me, kind of grounded in a bit more of a balanced place musically, personally. And I thought it would be really weird when I'm out, like even just then when you're like, I'm here sitting with my friend Kitt. I know you also call me Catherine, and that doesn't feel any different, but it's amazing how when someone comes up, they're like, oh, hey, you're Kitt. It feels really good.
Right.
And I don't know if I'm now like one of those people who changes their name and if, to something really obscure, but I really like it. So I'm totally on board with this now.
Yeah, I mean, and then you can still change it to the artist formerly known as Kitt later down the road.
Exactly, right? The next tier of when I go into the opera genre at that point, neo opera.
Is neo opera? Is it on the menu for the future?
Let's make it happen, Brandon. Let's make it happen. Yeah.
You talked a little bit about your childhood. They're growing up, recording in your house when you were 14. I read on one of your bios. I don't remember where it was. That some of your early influences were Celtic music. Where did that? Is that still something that you go back to in your roots, or is there any part of that when did that turn into jazz?
That's a really good question. So I was born in Nova Scotia. My parents emigrated from England in the 70s, late 70s, and then had me in Nova Scotia. And of course, my dad. No one in my family is abruptly musical, but they all appreciate music greatly. And so being in Nova Scotia, and I think probably it was just also my dad's kind of favorite kind of music, and we just ended up happening to live in Nova Scotia, but it was all Celtic music. And of course, you're right next to Cape Breton, so you got the Rankin family over the bridge. You've got Anne Murray right there, and I was too young to understand what that meant, but I was old enough to like make a cardboard replica of a fiddle and a cardboard replica of bagpipes. And apparently I used to just march around the living room putting on the Barra McNeils and yeah. So I don't know. I thought I was a big deal. No one knew I could sing at that point though. And then we ended up moving to Manitoba. And just out of the blue, I happened to have a grade 8 teacher that was from Newfoundland. And so that's nowhere near Nova Scotia, but we were like, hey, we're the Maritimers.
Right.
And he played the Celtic
Solidarity.
drum. I know, right? Yeah. We know what winters are like. He used to play the boron. And I had
played the what?
The boron. So
that's flying over my head.
Yeah. If you have a Gaelic accent, sorry, my nose keeps running. Is there a tissue that I could have? If you have a Gaelic accent, I think it's like boran or something, but I don't know. I can't do it, but it's spelt a lot different. But it's the round drum. You have your hand in the back and you're using the heel of your hand to press up against the skin as you're hitting it.
Okay. Yeah.
It's such an excellent instrument. It's unbelievable the amount of musicality you can get out of it. So he started teaching me that drum, and I was already playing like flutes and penny whistles because of listening to Barry McNeil's. Thank you. And uno momento. It was all of a sudden he's like, "Oh, you're gonna sing this Celtic song at a school assembly." Like, what the fuck? No, am I allowed to swear? Yes. Okay,
Yes,
we're drinking.
yes.
Right, of course. Okay.
Yes.
So
You
I
may
had,
smoke and swear.
I
You
may
can actually
smoke. No, okay. And so I had to sing at this assembly, and it was terrifying. I hear it went like
This is grade 8?
This is grade 8. Yeah.
Which already everything is terrifying.
Oh God,
you're
yeah.
fucking 13.
I had glasses. I was like just the geek of the geeks, and then to put me up there to sing with a teacher, which is so uncool.
Yeah.
He was cool though,
Yeah.
but like, yeah, it was mortifying. But it was that my dad was like, "Oh, she can sing," and then my teacher was like, "Oh, she can sing." So we made a Celtic band. Put out our first album. The thing. My dad can't figure it out. No one can really understand why jazz became a big deal, but we used to have, my sisters used to slip me like, "Oh, listen to some Nora Jones. Don't tell mom and dad. Oh, listen to some Lauryn Hill. Don't tell mom and dad." And they'd give me these like burnt CDs
Right,
with like obscure writing on them.
This is your
So
siblings?
my older sisters, yeah. And they were moved out of the house well before me. So it was like seeing them.
We're gonna make you cool, yeah.
We're gonna make you cool. Yeah. Your glasses and braces will come off one day. And thanks to them showing me these little bits, I knew there was something out there that I wasn't listening to just yet. And heaven forbid if I listened to that at home. So the amazing thing is I felt like I had found home when I was truly able to delve into jazz music at university. I think it was the history
and you went
of
to
it.
university in Brandon, right?
Yeah. I think I resonated with the history behind it because Dad had taught me so much about acknowledging the history of the Celtic music I was singing or what century it came from. So the history of the jazz music coming through and the things that people were talking about. Words are a very big deal to me. Lyrics and storytelling is a big deal to me. So finding out what Billie Holiday was talking about as a 19-year-old, 18-year-old was like very impactful on me. And then to match that though with in Celtic music, I can't really read music very well, but so I'd learn everything by ear. And it's so funny, the Dino De Niccolo interview that came out on the Guilt by Association, he was talking about how he used to stinge off his sister's lessons in like just the teacher would play it once and then he would try. I was like, oh shit, I did that too. Bad child. But it meant that as I was learning a song on the penny whistle or on the flute, I would sing it in my head. Dun, 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 dun. So that actually allowed me to suddenly have this dexterity in my vocals that I didn't realize I would have for jazz or singing like melismas and everything. I was like, people were like, how can you do that? I'm like, I'm not sure. But it's just been over the last couple of years, like, oh, because I was singing jigs and reels out loud, trying to figure it out on a flute. So they all kind of marry hilariously enough, even to this day. And I'm finding as I'm aging, my appreciation to listen to some Bear McNeil's again is really coming back. Like, so that it must be there. And I have a feeling that probably I'm going to be that 60-year-old in their house, like only playing folk music and fuck everything else. This was where I should have been the whole time kind of thing. So I know it's coming. But I have a really good friend, Serena Eads, fiddle player, and she came over a couple years ago and we actually jammed. And it was the first time, like I was playing guitar, she was playing fiddle. And then I brought out the penny whistle and everything. And that was the first time I was like, oh, wow, I have such a connection to this still. And I think it's just it's a testament to the fact that kind of doesn't matter what genre it is. Because if something has that story behind it or that kind of connection with you, just like, done.
I've heard you mention story a couple times before today. As it being a really important part of what you are and what you do as a songwriter. Specifically, I wanted to ask you about one of your newer songs that came out. I believe it was released in 21 as a single, but it came out on your last album that came out in 2022, Amnesia. The phone call. I thought it was so cool. I was listening to it the other day. And I'm like, I bet you there's a cool story behind this phone call.
There is, yeah. The woman on the phone is Mama D, my adoptive mother, my Vancouver mom. I met her. There was a point in university where I suddenly couldn't sing anymore because I had nodes, and I went to specialists and all these kinds of therapies to try to get my vocal cords figured out. And right at the same time, the school decided they were very kind to me. They only had an opera program and an instrumental jazz program. But then the top jazz guys there created a funk band and they were looking for a singer. And one of them knew me from teaching and they heard me singing an Alicia Keys song or something in a teaching break. And they asked me to sing and I didn't know who James Brown was. I didn't know who Tower Power was, nothing. So they gave me a burnt CD, story of my life. And they helped me out in the fact that the professors in the jazz department decided to make a vocal program just for me. So I was studying with sax players and with trombonists and trumpeters. But there was no one to help me vocally. So I ended up hurting my voice because I was just singing from wherever I could get it from.
Yeah.
And they started flying me out to Vancouver every couple of months to have these intensives with Dee Daniels, who lives out here. That's how I got introduced to Vancouver. That's Mama D. Like, she fixed me within 20 minutes, and the next 2 days she just kicked my ass.
Wrong.
Yeah, that was basically it. She's like, "Where are you singing from? Holy crap!" And then it was like, "Oh, that's much easier." But yeah, the next 2 days were her kicking my ass on my mindset and what I want in the future and how I look at my life. And this is 2007. This is like, I was a lost child, severe depression, anorexia. Like and this woman just came out of nowhere and took me under her wing in such a impactful way. It just changed my life. I went back a whole different human. And then thank God I still had like, oh, you guys are going to send me out there again to get my ass kicked again? Yes. So Dee has stuck around in my life in such a huge way. And so what you're hearing in that song is Dee kicking my ass. Because she and we've traveled together. We've done all these different projects together. And the whole song is about her. Right before I started writing what would then be the album, but they trickled out. I found out that Dee had basically about 4 to 5 months to live due to cancer. And this is like one of the most important human beings to me in my life. And so there were a lot of songs that I was writing at the time. By the way, she beat it, and she is now like 2 years free. Boom. Yeah. Is that how you're meant to do that? You're meant to click it?
The click is for the ones that didn't beat it.
Amen to that. So I was writing these songs kind of about what Dee had been teaching me as a mother. There's just so many different mother figures that you experience through life. And she was such an impactful one that I was writing about some of the things. And so amnesia is a word that she usually says to me. She'll call me. She's like, "Shit, girl, I've got amnesia again." And it's basically that you've forgotten that you are the creator of your world, that you create what it is that you're doing. If you're fucking this up right now, then
of your own story.
Exactly. Like, grow up and figure it out. Let's do this. Stop hitting the wall, kind of thing. But the beautiful thing is that she does it too. So she'll call me and be like, "Gosh, shit, I've got amnesia again," because she's forgotten. And so I wrote that song about her, and it was really funny. So I was going through this whole songwriting. Every morning I get up at 7. At the time we were building Sandstone. So I was getting up at 7 and doing an hour or 2 hours of songwriting before going and getting to construction work. So I have all these videos of me just looking like a wreck, like sitting at the computer trying to write these songs. And amnesia was one of them that just came out so fast, like just done. And the little riffs done, everything. And then Dee called. And she had just had a vocal session with Crystal DeSantos, and she was really stoked, or the day before. And I don't know why she was on the phone, but all of a sudden I was like, I need to turn my microphone on, because she was going into like full D mode. And I'm like, yes, I don't know what I'm going to do with this, but I'm going to record it. And I had asked her when she first got the first diagnosis, I had asked if I could record, if she'd be okay if I recorded her speaking. Because I really enjoy doing that. I record like my granddad and things like that. And then, so it just fit together, this song about me trying to, she's in the second verse, Mama D can set me straight. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I just thought it was so great to be able to end it. I keep getting shivers talking about this. I just loved to have her voice encapsulated at the end of the song so that everyone could experience a little bit of Mama D.
A little bit of Mama D.
Yeah.
I've heard you mentioned that song came really easily, the writing process.
Yeah.
I've heard people say before, kind of jokingly, about songs that they feel that with, about them finding them as opposed to writing them.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't write that song. I found that song.
Yeah.
Do you ever feel that as a songwriter?
Absolutely. Wasn't it not Neil Young? Who was it? Old country writer who's still around now, but he says that when he's driving and a song comes to him, it's like it's passing him by, and if he doesn't catch it, it's gonna keep going.
Yeah.
And I loved that. I was like, yeah, I just
gotta grab it, catch it off the wind.
Exactly. Otherwise, it goes to someone else, and literally a year later, you'll be like, I
had that idea.
That one was mine. But I went to bed instead, or I was like, oh, I'll remember it tomorrow. No, never.
Do you ever record your voice just like doing ditties on your phone? You're like, you catch a lick in your head and you're like, oh, I gotta remember this, and then you're just like on the phone, and then your voice memos are just full of. They're
really dumb, a lot of them. And the really sad thing is when I go into a songwriting mode and I like, oh, that's right, I've got this phone full of ideas, and I'm going through, I'm like, was I drunk like half the time? And I really like beatboxing, apparently. And that's in my phone a lot. Because I'll think of the melody and I'm like, oh, I'll record it in. And then my brain instantly hears the harmonies. So all of a sudden I'm like, first harmony, ha ha ha. Second harmony, ha ha ha. And then it's like, oh, and then the beat should be like, oh, I'm not even going to do it. But just like you were hoping I was going to go there. But
I was really hoping you were going to go there.
And it's like, no, Catherine, like
Have
the beat needs to be like
tequila.
this. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, my voice memos are full. And even on my watch as well. I keep forgetting that they're on my watch. But then the other day I found some and was like, again, wow.
The whole watch thing just flies right over my head. I'm like, I don't understand how that is also a device.
This is a device.
Yeah.
It has voice memos on it.
I was a smartphone holdout as well.
Oh, were you?
For the longest time, I just want my phone to be able to take phone calls. That's all I want. I was like iPhone, 5 or 6 before I.
Oh, you really did.
Yeah.
Bravo.
Yeah. Now I can't put it down.
Yeah,
And
quite.
I'm like, I should just go back to a flip phone.
You know what? I typed something in on a flip phone a little while ago, and it was really nice.
I did as well.
Like,
I did as well. You know, Parking Lot Dan?
Yeah.
He needed me to call somebody or text somebody. He had forgotten.
On his phone?
On his phone, yeah. He's got a little Motorola flip phone.
Oh.
And I grabbed it and it was like, T9 Word. What the shit is this?
I know, right? Yeah. E, tuck, tuck. Like it was almost like its own Morse code.
Yeah, and you get really good at it. It was the only tech proficient thing that I ever got good at, and I'm shit at texting now, but I was better at it when it was.
Oh, totally. And like, and that was when I was in university there, and so you could be under the desk and you knew like, hi, I.
Because there were actual buttons.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I could go on about just being an old fuddy
and
duddy.
changing subject.
Yeah, we talked about burnt CDs earlier, and I'm like, pretty soon we're gonna have to like put a disclaimer in what a burnt CD is.
I know, right? I just watched. There was a TikTok that was sent to me this morning. There's a girl. She was just like, I think that we need to just be able to have one phone at home. And it just stays home, and it's for everyone to use. And then someone had done a clip to their just like, how old am I? And I was like, oh God, that's me. And like party line. And yeah. Oh man.
I watched this clip the other day. It was 2 17-year-olds trying to get a rotary phone to work. It was pretty funny. They were like, for a few minutes, they're just like, and you couldn't really see. Sorry, I'll tickle my throat. You couldn't really see what it was they were doing. Like the picture quality wasn't that great.
Yeah.
But the only one that they could figure out, they figured out that the 0 had to go all the way around.
Yeah.
But it was just fiddling with the phone for like 2 minutes. And they kept picking up the receiver and then putting it back down.
Oh.
And then dialing the number when the receiver was not off. Like, wow.
I was watching.
Are people getting stupider, or was this not self-evident?
It's really, if you're not trained, I think someone the other day, they were just like, oh my God, my kids don't know how to use a phone. I'm like, because we don't get trained. Like I grew up with my dad having a home business, and from like 5 years old, when I was allowed to pick it up, when it was the brr, 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 which meant it was someone phoning in with a order. Hello, Rural Videos. How can I help you? Like I was taught from such a young age to be the like phone assistant. So I feel like I've got this like head start on everyone else on phone etiquette, except for now I fucking hate using the phone. But yeah.
I know now someone calls you like, what the fuck is wrong?
Oh, it's abrasive. It's like,
Why are
why
you
you want answers in this second?
I'm the worst one for it. I call everybody. And then
do you?
They usually text me back, and I'm like, motherfucker.
I'm putting it on my phone that you're not allowed. No. Yeah. How do we get on to that?
What was your dad's company, you said?
Rural Root Videos. So he produced rural agricultural videos. They were like documentary length videos about, there were some bestsellers, which was changing ways of farming. So my dad came over to England just enamored with the pioneer way of life so we did chores with the horse and cart. We don't laugh at me. I had my own little tractor, but they were all very vintage tractors. So like an old Massey Harris, and cockshut, and a cockshut is a brand of tractor, a very old brand of tractor. I don't think they're around anymore.
I grew up in the suburbs.
Okay. Yeah, and so we had a wood stove and had to cut our own wood and had cows, sheep, and everything. So Dad, he was very much like had our own eggs. I milked the milk cow in the morning. I grew up in the 1800s.
And sang Celtic songs.
Eventually, yeah.
But he made documentaries.
He made documentaries about agricultural life, basically all the things that he was experiencing on how farming has changed, or how just people working with their hands and building the things around them and running their farms in a sustainable way has changed, kind of thing. And this is like in the late 80s, 90s that he's making these videos, and it's so ahead of its time in a way. It's pretty cool to watch them now.
Is your father making documentaries? Is that any part of that where your passion and skill behind the camera and videography come from?
I think so. It was only in 2012 that as a kid, it wasn't that I wasn't allowed to have like a summer job or anything, but we lived so far away from everyone. Like we lived on a farm really like out there. Then there were other people out there next to us, but farming life, in rural Manitoba. And Dad's making these videos. So it was really interesting because it'd be this major juxtaposition, which probably kind of hones in on exactly who Catherine is. She is just a juxtaposition and everything. Because outside you'd have the 1800s, and I knew how to do all of the things to survive. If anyone wants to like hitch up with me for the apocalypse, I will keep you alive. But then you go inside and
Noted.
Yeah, great. You're in. Dad had an entire like big Mac editing system. We used to have like 16 VCRs, and we'd be making our own video copies. And then on the other end, my mom was a PC computer teacher in the evenings for adults. So I had PC, Mac, electronics everywhere, able to record myself at home, all that stuff. And then you'd go outside and I'd milk the cow and be separating the cream off the top of the milk from the day before, kind of thing. So as soon as I was allowed to, like, I was able to carry Dad's battery pack, which back in the day was a huge fucking thing that was so heavy. Right. And I was allowed to hold that because the Catherine won't break anything. I was allowed to. Yeah. I was
Thanks, Dad.
Clumsy child. And then he had all the big camera equipment back then. And I was always his gaffer. We traveled tons for filming. And then cameras started getting smaller and smaller, and I was getting older, so I was now allowed to be able to BB cam or running, or I learned very early on how to read scripts for him, so being able to do like voiceover work. There is a hilarious, I know to everyone else it's probably like endearing, but there's a video out there called Catherine's Farm, which is about me when I was 12 on my farm and all the things we used to do.
So
anyway,
putting a link
we are moving forward from here. It is only available on VHS. I think there is a DVD. But yeah, so I was able to be integrated really quickly. And again, my sisters were out of the house, so I worked with Dad on his video company, and I'd be editing for him quite young, or at least getting the footage ready. But I totally left it behind when I went to university. And then I moved out here in 2012. I started working, doing some marketing management for social media and things for the Sunshine Coast Art Crawl, which is quite a large festival every fall. And they were desperately needing some content. And my husband at the time had this little camera, and I was like, oh, I know how to do that.
Right.
And it just blossomed from there, came and turned into KP Productions and making some like really big, cool projects for different artists. And it really did morph into working with musicians or with small entrepreneurs that were just kind of making the leap into having their first pieces of content. And I do really love hiding behind a camera. There is something very satisfying about not being seen.
Not being on the other side of it.
Yeah.
Well, you do both beautifully. So
thanks.
You're a natural on both sides of the camera.
Thank you.
Your parents are from London,
England. South England. Yeah.
South England, and then you spent some time in London as well, right?
Yeah. I moved there in 2016, trying to make my life work, make my music career work. Got my ass kicked, which is what London does to everyone, I think, which is great. Makes you grow up real fast. And by a really, like, one would call it like universally divine, but all of these things went wrong all at the same time. Someone that I had trusted greatly with the work I was doing kind of stabbed me in the back, which meant then I lost my job because they ended up taking it instead. I was meant to take possession of my house in London. I was living with my grandfather in the South before this. So I was meant to move up to London to start this job. I then lost my house the next week because I couldn't pay for it because my job had just gone. So it was me and my dog living on one of my best friend's love seat for about 2 weeks in London whilst I cried and tried to fucking figure out what now. Like I built everything toward that moment. And ended up having to move back out with my grandfather, which thank God he let me. He likes my dog. He just wanted a dog. I think that's what it was. But it ended up being the most incredible time of my life, being able to live with my granddad.
Cool.
He is just one of the most important human beings to me. And he and I was vlogging at the time. I had all my video equipment with me, and he'd like walk in, those little silver point and shoots cameras, little like that. Yep. So I used to go out, I was getting a lot of stock video at that point. So we're out in Somerset, England, beautiful, middle of summer. I'd walk the dog, set the camera up, start getting time lapses and things like that I can upload to Envato. And one day he walks in. I had his whole front room was my office. Every day at 5 p.m. he'd come in with wine or gin and elderflower for me and like put it down and shuffle back out again. And one morning he comes in and he's found his point and shoot and this little tiny tripod that probably came with something random, and he screwed it together and he comes and he's like, I'm ready to go. I'm like, okay, what are we doing? He's like, well, I'm going to drive you somewhere else to get your time lapses. And so it became this just beautiful thing as long as we were home by 5 for our wine or our gin. And that ended up being one of the most impactful times of my life. So everything went to shit, but everything was amazing.
Funny how life can do that.
Yeah. And then I got offered a whole bunch of jobs in Vancouver a couple months later. So I moved back. So it's like, talk about just woo.
Full circle.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you also, I believe I read somewhere earlier this week that you recorded an album in Australia as well.
My ex-husband is from Australia, from Melbourne. And so there was a year in 2011, 2012, we went there to live for a year to see if that's where we wanted to settle down. And it was a really cool experience. I mean, talk about it's such a different environment. It's just so incredible how the world is all put together. Really, it boggles the mind when you go to different places, even though, I mean, this is a very developed country we're talking about. But it was incredibly interesting to go through making music there and getting into the new scene. I was singing jazz, so like I had to break into a whole new scene. We were just outside of Melbourne, but then I was teaching every week 3 hours up north of Melbourne in a place called Wangaratta, which has a huge jazz festival and is very known for its jazz musicians. So, and that was totally, again, universal, wonderful divineness of, I got hooked up with these people that all then allowed me to start making more jazz music. And I made my album Love whilst I was over there, which is a whole bunch of love songs.
A whole bunch of love songs. And you won a songwriting award for one of those tracks, didn't you?
That was the very first, it's kind of the reason why I left university. I won a songwriting contest when I was in university, when I was very lost, trying to figure out studying jazz, but knew I wasn't going to be a jazz musician like everyone else was going. Everyone was either being a teacher or, no one was going for it as a singer.
Right.
And if you wanted to be one, staying in Brandon probably wasn't the best idea. So yeah, I had these wonderful contacts in Winnipeg who were helping me learn how to songwrite, and instantly, like R&B songs were coming out instantly. And everyone was just like, where is this coming from? I'm like, do not know. Just happens to be in there. Jerry Atwell, he put me in for a songwriting contest, and I won 25 grand from a radio station, Groove FM, to make my first album. And so I had already put out 2 of these like little Celtic albums. This was
when you were like 14, 15?
Yeah. I just want to say, like,
can we get someone to track those down, please?
Yeah, exactly. The first one's name is Killick. It's like an anchor that goes off the front of I need someone to explain that one to me again. Touring, being in high school and in junior high is no joke. That's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Being like, having to come home and need to rehearse like 2 to 3 hours every night. It was a job instantly. Like when like winning that competition was amazing because it was the second time that I was in like a real studio and like really recording songs with a producer. And up to that point, what I'd been doing was my dad and I driving around Manitoba and Saskatchewan gigging every week, 2 or 3 gigs, because people just loved this 14-year-old that was singing Celtic music on her own piano. And then I had it all programmed so it would continue playing as I played the penny whistle solo. And then I went back to playing, and it was this whole shtick. But it meant that like I sucked at school. My teachers hated me. They're like, why don't you concentrate? I'm like, I'm trying, but like, So there was just these really interesting music career. Like it didn't really happen in this. Nothing's linear, is it?
Linear, yeah.
No. Yeah. So yeah, I won that competition. That's kind of what got me started in Winnipeg. And yeah, Jordan has that album in his car, and every now and then I'll get in and he'll be blaring one of those songs. And this is from 2008, and it's just like, oh my God, shut it off. Because boy, that girl.
You've evolved.
I think so. My voice was way better back then, I think.
I listened to some of the older stuff today. I think.
Oh my God, you listened to it.
Oh yeah. I was listening to some stuff today. Yeah, because I honestly I went on a bit of a rabbit hole.
Oh God.
Because you've got stuff out as Kitt, and you've got stuff out as Catherine Penfold, and I was kind of looking, and then I found a SoundCloud. And like
good Lord, what was on that?
Page 3 of Google. Love the entire album.
Oh, okay.
And there was Journey.
Journals.
Yeah.
That's the album that came out. Yeah, that's the winning album. Music.
But it's funny because talk about the evolution of artists and growing yourself. You can hear the style change and the maturity coming through in your most recent album. I'm drawing a blank.
State of Mind.
Sweetest Thing was the last one you released as
I need to stop
Catherine
starting
Penfold.
them. Yeah.
State of Mind was the one you released last year.
Yeah.
That's the one that had he did the Tian Gibbs was on that one, right? Yeah. What was it like doing a song with him? It was
Oh, it was so cool. Nerve-wracking because it's Tion. So it was just like, oh my gosh, he's going to be on one of my songs. But he was such an incredible person to watch create. He came over, gosh, I think twice. He came over twice. We knew it was that song that he was going to work on. And, but he hadn't written anything yet. And he came in and like, I'm a bit of a solo operator. Like I've had a lot of years of people not being super integral. So I find that now I'm very much a solo operator and things. I'm trying to change that back again. Cause like in this instance, Tion coming in so humble, so gracious, so lovely, coming in and sitting on my couch behind me, like listening to me just like fuck around because hey, network, I'm going to produce an album. Let's hope I know how to use Logic. So he's listening to me like doing weird shit and I can see him. He's on his phone behind me and like, I don't know if he's texting or if he's writing a song. But I'm not going to question it because this is his artistic moment. And all of a sudden he's like, all right, go back to that section and just to play it from the beginning. And he starts reading out what he's just written because he's got my lyrics there too. I'm tearing up right now.
Watching the process happen.
Oh, yeah. It was just even how much he had regarded what I was singing about. Mm-hmm. And he did ask, he's like, is there anything specific? Like, what do you want me to talk about? And I'm like, oh, no. No, this is your part. Mm-hmm. Like, if that makes you uncomfortable, for sure, I can give you guidelines, but this is your part. And I want you to feel like you're saying what's integral to you in this part. Like, I'm getting teary right now. Like he listened. He was listening the whole time and he was just writing out these lyrics the whole time and piecing them back together. And then, oh my God, the first time that he spoke it out loud, like I just was speechless because he had said exactly what that situation that he didn't even know about, that I'd written the song about. He nailed it. Exactly what I wrote the song about a guy. Exactly what that guy would have said in response to what I was saying.
Right.
And it was just, God, I love him. Yeah. I can't wait to do more.
You talked a little bit, you mentioned it earlier, being a younger artist, feeling lost. You mentioned depression, anxiety, anorexia, something that you struggled with when you were younger. Do you find, I'm bringing it up because it's a topic that's near and dear to my heart, mental health, mental illness, and struggles that people go through. I find it's pretty common amongst creatives, people in the artistic world. I find it's less common for people to be comfortable talking about it or feel like they have the space to talk about it.
Right.
Do you ever feel like that's a place that you write from, or you is that where does that tie in as part of your artistic process?
That is such a good question. Great one. Nice one, Brandon. So when I was first I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. I kind of knew that wasn't it. Something else was wrong. Or something a bit different was wrong. But unfortunately in the communities that I was existing within, there was so much stigma around it. And also I was depressed, so I don't want to talk about it either.
Right,
you already feel shitty enough about yourself. The last thing you're going to do is be like, fuck it, I'm going to talk about it. So I hid it for a really long time, and I didn't have the strength to fix it within myself either. But there was something, and I this is so interesting that you brought this up, because this is something that's been so on my mind over the last couple of weeks. I'm trying to figure it out. There was somewhere within the year of first finding out you're anorexic, your arms are tiny, you're bipolar. There was somewhere along the way that I decided that I just was going to talk about it. Mm-hmm. And it made everyone uncomfortable. And sometimes people thinking I'm bringing it up just for attention. No. Like, fuck. Do you think if I could choose to not feel like this, that like I wouldn't take that route? Like, But when people, it all of a sudden, I think it was actually maybe because I was teaching full time, teaching these young girls and young boys, and you could see some of them coming up and having these feelings, and no one's talking to them about it. And it's like, hey, guess what? This is a word, and this is a thing, you know, that I feel. And so it's just with you saying like deciding to talk about it or be open about it. There was suddenly something in my 20s that was like, I am bringing this up all the time.
Right.
And all of a sudden not feeling ashamed about it. It greatly affects my creativity, but not in the way. I have a really hard time writing songs about depression because when music is such a memory clicker, I don't know what the right word for that is, but it takes me back. The moment that I listen to a song, I can instantly feel, even if it's like a Taylor Swift song, I know exactly when I listen to that. I know exactly what time period, because when I listen to a certain genre of song, I stick on it for a long time, and it's usually because something's going on in my life. And it's the same when I write songs. I'm writing that song from such a desperate place or from such a sad place that I actually have a really hard time. I'm almost frightened of myself because I don't ever want to be on tour in the future and on stage singing that song. And I'm afraid that I'm going to put myself back into a depression by singing about it. But at the same time, that would be going against the values that I'm trying to uphold, which is sharing and talking about it and making an open space. So this is coming up right now because I'm writing a new album. And a couple people were joking about the fact, like sad songs sell right now. It's like, well, that's great because I got lots of them. But at the same time, like, do I want to put out work that is sad? That's why even with Amnesia is a song about me being depressed and having amnesia about how I'm okay. I am, you are smart. You're not a bad person. And so I've been trying to figure out like, where's the sweet spot of writing a song that's about depression and allows people to know that they should talk about it and they can talk about it. And this is quote unquote normal, but without making a song that's going to make people feel worse or get them to stew in it. I also want to tell them like, get the fuck up. You can do it. Be the kind little thing like D kicking my ass. Like in depression, you can't just get the fuck up. You've got to know what's.
And I love the term amnesia specifically with that, because I think what so many people don't understand about depression and going through my own life is that, first of all, they just think that you're sad.
Yeah.
Like, they think that the two words are synonymous: sadness and depression. And I totally lost my train of thought there. They forget the lies that you tell yourself when you're in those moments, and that's where they don't know, right? And you talk about amnesia, talk about forgetting all the positive, but it's more than just you're forgetting the positive. It's that you've injected your brain and your psyche with all these lies that you believe. And it's you're not just facing the struggle of pulling up your bootstraps and not being sad anymore. You're facing the struggle of this delusion of self that you've created about yourself. That's and it's a feeling of being completely impotent. Which you talk about struggling writing songs about depression.
Mm-hmm.
I think another thing that people forget or aren't aware of is that one of the things that depression does is it completely just you feel impotent. You feel like you can do nothing,
paralyzed.
And if you look at people, instances of self-harm or even cases of suicide, majority of suicides from depression happen when people are coming out of really, really bad bouts because they're not as paralyzed.
Yeah.
And there's so many. Yeah, I mean, now I'm starting to tear up.
No, but that's exactly it. And that was the next part I was getting to, is that there's writing about depression, but I just can't write. I can't do anything.
Yeah.
When people are like, there's been a couple like industry people through the years who are just so fucking harsh. And you talk to them about mental health, and every time they're like, "Oh, well, give you something good to write a song about." I'm like, "Fuck you."
Yeah, fuck you, man. Like,
you try writing when you want to die.
yeah.
You try writing when you lock yourself in a bathroom and can't find anything to cut yourself with, so you'd maybe try scratching your arm.
Right.
You know, you try that, you asshole. Let me take you outside. Positivity and good energy.
Well, I think it's really beautiful that people are I think the ability to talk about it is becoming more normal.
Yeah.
And it takes courage from individuals who struggle or suffer with it. And I think another thing that people don't understand about depression is that they just assume that it goes away eventually. Like if you're not depressed now, then you're not going to be depressed again.
Totally.
Like if that I had depression for 2 years.
Yeah.
No, it's probably a lifelong journey.
Yeah.
It's probably something that's going to be a part of of who you are.
Yeah.
And in a weird way, you have to kind of learn to love it, because you have to learn to love yourself in that way.
Yeah.
But
no, even just this last week, I had a really great week.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been a really long time since I've been able to say that, like a really long time. Fuck 2022. But I knew the whole time, like, it's not going to always feel like this.
Right.
And usually I would get into a real state about that. I'd get anxious about the fact that I'm not going to feel this good, maybe even tomorrow when I wake up, which is what happened. Saturday, I woke up, I'm like, fuck, it's gone. But I'm trying to learn to go, fuck, it's gone. But remember, you did feel that way, so it's coming back.
Do you have checklists?
I don't, but one of my gorgeous, gorgeous dear friends just shared with me one of her checklists, and different way of wording. There was something she was told, whilst you're in a great state, making like a little care package for yourself. And it just has like a little, like your favorite candy, or some love notes, or a tarot card, which I am obsessed with tarot cards and all that kind of stuff. So, but making that whilst you're in a great state of mind. And then when you're depressed, like, you have to listen to it. If that thing in the box says, Catherine, go to bed. I become the best workaholic when I'm depressed, because I don't give a shit about myself. So I'm not going to shower. I'm not going to worry about sleeping. I'm not going to worry about just as long as I'm getting the shit done. That's all that I'm worth it. So, but if in that box it says, Catherine, go to fucking bed.
Yeah.
Take the day off. Care for yourself. Watch some true crime shows. Do something, you know? I
Also
thought that
known
was
as murder porn.
Oh yeah. It really, that really hit me, because I know that every part of my brain is going to say, in that moment when I open up the box, be like, this is a piece of shit, Catherine. You don't deserve any of this. Don't listen to it. Don't listen to it. Who cares?
Yeah.
But you've got to, like, that's amnesia again.
Mm-hmm.
Forgetting you're worth it. Forgetting that you get to have a day. You get to care for yourself first. Yeah. Good old amnesia.
Good old amnesia. Do you find that those sort of skill sets or toolbox, whether or not it's, remembering amnesia or remembering the good things, do you find that helps with your sense of empathy when you interacting with other artists and other people in the community?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, on high days, not high days. I am only depressed. Yeah, okay. On days when I'm okay,
I call them high and low. Like,
yeah.
And I always feel weird when I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, I'm feeling really low right now. People are like, I'm not diabetic.
Yeah.
I'm fine. I'm gonna be okay.
Yeah.
Should you be eating that? You just said you were low. Don't tell me what the fuck to eat.
Take another sip, Brandon. Yeah, I think the same in my kind of workaholic sense is there has been a lot of time up to about a year ago that I believed that I just had to take care of other people constantly. Mm-hmm. And so my empathy was deep, but the thing is I like gave it away a lot. And so an actual self-care tool that I'm finding is learning when I can give it away, and then not hating myself when I can't. Mm-hmm. So I'm noticing now that my interactions with people, when I know that I'm in a kind of stable space, I know that I can really lean in and really like support someone in that moment. Whereas what I used to do is always try to do that all the time, because I see people who are depressed and they don't have words for it yet, or they don't feel like they're allowed to have words for it yet. And I just come here, come here, I'll keep you safe. But that would then make me worse too. So the empathy is there, but it's, there's like all these new kind of little, not contracts, but little things I'm trying to remember for myself, just even in the last couple of months of, I have to, if I take care of myself first and I'm okay with choosing the moments where I share that empathy that I have for people going through the same thing, if I take care of myself first, then I can actually give more in the moments where I'm better. And it's just now, like, it's really hard to forgive myself for that mindset, though.
Yeah. Well, I find taking care of people, I don't know if this is how it is for everybody, but it almost feels safe when I don't have the mental fortitude or emotional capacity to take care of myself.
Absolutely.
And you project, you take care of someone else.
Yeah.
And it feels like you're doing something. You feel like you can pat yourself in the back. I'm being a good person.
Yeah.
I'm taking care of someone else. But I'm shittier at it because I haven't taken care of myself. So I'm coming into this with this frame of mind, like, oh, I can help.
Yeah.
But I'm a fucking train wreck in my own right. So it's like the assistance that I'm offering.
Your reactions and triggers to things are different. There's so many.
Just shut the fuck up and go home at this point.
I have so many moments like that where I'm sitting there. I'm like, this is not your time. Like, go sit, get in the bleachers, Catherine.
Yeah.
No, I totally hear that. Yeah.
I want to quickly derail from our derailment and our side tangent. Talk a little bit about your work as a producer, as a videographer. I know that in a previous conversation that you and I had, you talked about how London was a kind of a natural step to bringing that work into here.
Yeah.
You're co-creator of Sandstone.
Matthias.
And I've gotten to work with hand in hand with you with all the great work you've done with the Guilt by Association videos. At Guilt and Company, and I remember us talking about sort of creating that community of artists in the city. And I want to, before we run out of time here, touch on specifically that Vancouver. And what do you see? What are your hopes for Vancouver as a music scene in the next few years?
Gosh, that's a good question. Brandon, you're good at this. It's exactly that word, community, but it's something deeper than that. I get quite emotional and kind of anxious when you're constantly told Vancouver doesn't have a music scene.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting there like, why are you saying that? I've been to communities of 40 people to go to their monthly coffee house in this old opera house that's like the size of a little church kind of thing. And the place was fucking packed every month. Mm-hmm. Because everyone from 50 kilometers away would come for that one night. That town has a music scene.
Right.
Why?
Yeah.
What are these rules that we're putting on ourselves here in Vancouver to say that we don't have a music scene? All it does is separate us more. I mean, even if you don't think we have a music scene, stop saying it. The only way to build one is to say we have a fucking music scene. Mm-hmm. You know? They're just even through Sandstone and our work with the Studios series, season 1, we started off with artists that we kind of knew personally, and then this like tier after that, which was artists that were stemming from the people that we were talking to. And it blew my mind. Within a week, I had found out about probably 6 or 7 proper communities, genre communities here in this city that I didn't even know existed.
Right. Yeah. And there's a lot.
Yeah.
There's so many.
And I figured that I was like, that I knew what was going on. Mm-hmm. So if I didn't know that, then Joe Blow down the road that's telling me that there's no fucking music scene in Vancouver can go, because go look.
Yeah.
Go find it. Nurture it. Let's bring them out. The problem is that we have this whole idea of like, we are just this genre. We are just this genre. And they just stick together. And then they tell themselves, we don't have anyone to rely on. We have no one to communicate with. Well, then you're not going to find anyone to communicate with.
Right.
I think it is all of our responsibility to reach out and get as uncomfortable as possible in like genres that like, oh, I don't like that one. Like, I don't give a shit. Let's go.
Yeah.
You know, we've got to reach out and start. If everyone starts doing this, come in closer, we're going to have a fucking music scene. And we do. Yeah. We have such a vibrant music scene and so many amazing, exciting young artists coming up. I mean, I've seen them already. You guys have already featured them. Like, I'm getting tingly because it's just so damn exciting. We have a music scene, right, and we have a community. And all we have to start doing is stepping into how to nurture these people that are already here, already doing the work, and let everyone else know, like, hey, no, we are here. Shit, like, I look at all these grand world tours from different, even medium-sized artists, and they're going to Toronto and then they're going back to the US. And it's so unfortunate. But the only way that we can get them to believe that we're here is if we believe we're here.
Right.
And it just makes me so excited. Can you tell? Like, I want to like go punch something. I don't punch things when I'm excited. That sounded wrong. But like, that's just, the world is our fucking oyster. Vancouver is our oyster. Look at this vibrant community of people. And it's not just the headliners, it's the musicians in the band and all the different, like, even if we just brought one musician in and said, tell me all the bands that you work with. Who are all the musicians you work with? Betcha we wouldn't have heard of like 60% of them.
Right.
And it's like, oh shit, well, where are they? And they go ask them, like, it's everywhere. We are vibrant. And that, I just feel like that is kind of the rest of my life encapsulated right there, is just like, other than trying to do my own music and trying to find the space for my own art, because I get so wrapped up in wanting to work on everyone else's art. But like, to know even just the Guilt by Association series, like that is just the tiniest little pinch of how this scene could have support, how this scene, like, it's exploding already with the Kate Yawns, with the Alvin Brendans, with the, you know, like, these kids are coming out.
Yeah.
And
I think Alvin was playing last night.
Yes, he was. Yeah. With a bungalow band.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just,
I talk about the up and coming generation, young artists. He's one that I find really exciting, and really, really love to watch him play.
Yeah.
Because he's not genre specific. He goes down there. He's such, Alvin, if you listen to this, you're such a little music whore, and I love you for it. And it's so cool to see him bringing in or playing with musicians of his generation. You know, we're all really, really young, but then he comes in with the you know, people 10, 15, 20 years older than him as well, and he plays with them, and he has no trouble keeping up. It's just, he's such a fabulous guitarist, a really, really neat player to watch.
Yeah.
But that scene, that sense of community, from that old and the young, and not to say old, because, you know, the people that I'm calling old that he plays with are all my age.
Yep.
But I feel like there's an appetite in Vancouver. You talk about people saying that there wasn't, you know, people bitching, oh, there's no music scene in Vancouver, and you're like, fuck you. Well, actually, you said, aren't you?
Yeah.
But I feel like there's an appetite growing in the city, and not just an appetite, but an appreciation for music and for artists that I haven't seen. That wasn't there 5 years ago,
Yeah.
and it wasn't there 10 years ago when half a dozen venues closed within this period of 2 years. And it's neat because it's, life is cyclical and things go full circle. So yeah, I get the excitement because I'm right there with you in it, and seeing it on stage every night, and the amazing talent that I get to see through Guilt and Company, and then hearing about who else they're playing with and what else they're working on, and all the other different projects, all the different genres, all the different communities of artists when they merge. It's like this artist who played this show, this jazz show here, is now playing this rockabilly show over here.
Yeah. I think, and that's it. That when we're talking about Alvin Brandon, we're just giving you so many shout outs today. That is the thing that I find about him, and there's several other people as well, is that he is happy to be up there sharing his craft. And it doesn't matter what it is. He's just fucking stoked. And that is what creates community, because we've separated ourselves. We've separated ourselves into the R&B world, the pop world, the electronic world, the this world, and they don't talk. And if we take on a bit more of the mindset of every genre is important for Vancouver, every community is important for Vancouver, let's merge these babies. Even if sometimes there's going to be like real good train wrecks out of these mergings, but let's do it. Yeah. That is what creates this thing that everyone says isn't here and won't exist here because we're too, I don't know, the rent's too high or whatever, like try to move to Toronto, like Jesus, the rent's too high. We can do it. And it's already here. I think, I feel extremely privileged to be able to play a gig in Vancouver because there are literally communities that have 40 people in them who make it work. So of course we can. And just everyone needs to keep talking. Everyone needs to keep sharing and keep reaching out into uncomfortable spaces and collaboration. And that's me teaching myself as well, because I turned into this like lone wolf for a while because I was too afraid of getting hurt or having my music taken away from me. And it's like, no, that's not the way that this works. And that's not the way that a community is created. And it's just so exciting to watch what's happening.
You mentioned very briefly about people sort of pigeonholing themselves into genres. And it reminded me of one of my biggest pet peeves at Guilt and Company is when people come down mid-set and ask you what kind of music is the show tonight. What style of music? They're literally playing right now. It's that style. Yeah, but what is it? You got fucking ears?
Yeah. Yeah. No, and that's this huge joke as well in the music industry when you're trying to like pitch songs to a label or to. There was one point I was in Apple offices in London trying to pitch one of my songs to them. And they literally like, so like, what genre is this? I'm like, does that matter?
Like you just heard it.
Is it a good song or not? Like, but no, because they couldn't put pop. They couldn't put one label on it. It wasn't cool enough or it wasn't good enough. And that's the thing is that the larger people in the industry saying that that's the deal, that's how this works, means that everyone that's coming up in the world thinks, oh, well, I've got to fit into something. Fuck no. It's about, well, and I'm only just, again, relearning this myself, is you have to be creative to you. You have to be integral to you. And the amazing thing is that I don't think we come out of the womb only playing one word genres.
Yeah.
We come out of the womb getting influenced by such, especially once you're in your 30s, you are influenced by such a plethora of music that you don't even realize it. Like, I mean, there's
especially these days too. Right?
Absolutely.
Like, variety of stuff that I was exposed to growing up.
Oh, Jordan was just telling me his young daughter is bringing like, I don't know, it was something much more obscure than AC/DC, but like, cause she's finding it. I never had that. Like, I mean, my sisters were slipping me burnt CDs, but I think the thing that creates the community is saying, fuck you to the people saying, you know, you have to be a certain thing to win. And I think we're getting there. I think we really are. Labels are turning around. People are turning around to realizing that it's actually just that. I mean, this is what TikTok, unfortunately, I've mentioned TikTok a couple of times. It's so much work. But
What's TikTok?
Yeah, exactly. So we won't get into that. But the beautiful thing that TikTok has done is it has shown us individuals who are creative. It's not showing us people playing pop music or playing this music. It is a person sitting at a piano singing a kind of song, and it's beautiful, and it goes
teenagers
viral.
in their underwear.
Well, okay, I haven't seen that one. You're gonna have to tell me who you're blocking. But yeah, you are meeting the artist, and that then can create a community. Because we're not saying, oh, well, you don't fit in with so-and-so. No, now you two can merge because you're just artists at that point. And I am now talking completely out of my ass. And like, I have total like vindication against this. But like, yeah, I am just so stoked on the idea of the community that is already here in Vancouver and how we can build it.
Yeah, I think I think we're going to continue to see amazing things.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. My favorite retort when people ask me what kind of music is playing or what genre it is, and when I don't know, I don't have the time to sit there and explain all the genres and the subgenres. I just look up and go, good.
Yeah, there you go.
It's good.
I think that's a great idea.
So I'm gonna pour a tiny little send off.
Can you
splash.
actually? Yeah, good. Okay, that is a good. Okay,
Yeah.
Because I can feel it.
Before we sign off, I want to quickly. What do you got? What do you got coming up? When can we see you performing next?
Oh man. I am, I've just gone through a lot of little life transitions. That means that I am now going to home and hermit myself away and do a lot of songwriting for my next album. And what it means as well is that I'm really working on my show. Because I don't usually I haven't really created one since I was a kid. Mm-hmm. I then rebelled against not doing it because I had to do it when I was a kid. And so, thanks to these youngins that I'm watching. God, I feel so old. I'm getting really inspired to be me and work out what my show is, kind of thing. So the next thing that people will see is hopefully in a couple of months, me doing maybe an early show at Guilt, which is just Kitt and just my tunes and Amnesia, which I'm really stoked about doing, and been talking to So Far Sounds and getting a couple just smaller gigs where I start rebuilding me, kind of not from ground up, but pretty damn close. So yeah, I'm so excited to start sharing more music. I've just set up my den to be this little like filming studio so that I can share music from there, and and more video.
Awesome. Well, I greatly look forward to everything that you're going to do and continuing to build the Vancouver music scene with you. Yeah,
thanks, dude. And thank you guys so much for having me. This is such an amazing setup. I'm very honored to be here.
Thank you for being here.
Woo! I have to chug this one.
No, do whatever you want. Thanks, Kitt.
Thanks, dude.